Well, David, thanks so much for joining me today. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you about OEC Fiber.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and love to tell the story. Pretty proud of it, I guess.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Well, we'd love to give you that opportunity. So we can just jump right in. I think, as I was sort of preparing for this, one of the things I really wanted to ask up front is, OEC Fiber was born out of this sort of direct response to your electric members' needs, right? It was sort of moving from electricity, providing this essential service, to the next essential service, high-speed internet, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how did you ensure that your broadband offerings not only met but exceeded the expectations of your members, especially sort of considering at the time, I think it was 2019, right? The sort of existing, inadequacies as everyone really knows now, that the old 25/3 broadband standard.
Yeah, yeah. When I was hired in around September of 2017, and it really started with, like you said, that grassroots. We've got a magazine called Oklahoma Living, and there was an article in there about electric co-ops starting to get into this space, is the best way to describe it. And so the grassroots really started from our membership, who said, "This, we want you all to explore this," right? So, kind of making a super long story short, but what was really neat about it is that um, I came from the outside. I was not a co-op guy. I had not been, uh, you know, uh, I worked with people that retired after 38 years. It's a kind of level set, right? And so what was really neat was that I've always been an OEC member, though, for about 25 years on the electric side. And just how interacted with the member being a member with the co-op was a little different, just because of my generation, but also understood what it meant to, like, my parents, who grew up in southwestern Oklahoma. And I remember asking my mom, what was it like when you first got electricity? And she said it was probably like second or third grade. And I'm like, wow. And here we are doing this broadband now. And so really what it was born out of was that, OEC Electric, on the electric side, is the largest electric co-op in the state, and we're the oldest electric co-op in the state. And so I just remember vividly talking about the expectations of being set of what we were going to be doing. Was that I always said there's a standard. There's the OEC standard. We either have to meet it or beat it, and somehow we're going to do that. And I didn't. And at the time when I told the board that, I was very nervous, because that's a pretty tall task to say. You're going to, be better than, or meet that expectation of a company that's had 90 years to really, figure it out. And so like I said, when we started in September of 2017, I was the first employee, and we didn't have a name, we didn't have a logo, we didn't have any employees. It was just me sitting there saying, okay, well, where do we start? And really what I did was I leaned back on the electric side, those employees that have been here for 20, 25, 30, 35 years, and really tried to understand how they delivered electricity to our members, and how that level of service was, whether it's the delivery of the electricity, or the response to an emergency, or the response to, we're in the tornado alley, and I think everybody is now in the world. But I got to see firsthand how these linemen, and how these team members in the office and outside of the office really reacted and treated the members. And so it really helped me kind of lay a little bit more of a groundwork, right? To how are we going to do this? How are we going to handle that? But then it also really allowed me to go across the aisle to the electric side, where they showed me how they did things, and I understood why they did things, and I understood what it meant to do the way they did it. And so what was great about that is just how it made it a lot easier, I guess, right? And then once we also figured out that being an electric cooperative, there's a lot that are for profit on the electric side and not for profit on the electric side, like us. And then the same thing that are some that are in this broadband space. And so understanding that we could do it the best way we possibly could, but also understanding that we're delivering a service. So I always said to my boss, I said, I saw some of the financials from the very beginning, and of course it was just losing money, because when you start from nothing, right? And I remember just saying, I said, hey, if we make a dollar, we make a dollar. If we lose a dollar, you got my back? And he's like, I got your back, that type thing. So it really allowed us to just deliver that service and those speeds, and just say we're going to do it the best way we possibly can, because a lot of the handcuffs were off, I guess, is the best thing. And I always joke that when mom and dad are your teachers and they're telling you how to do it, it's pretty easy to follow that path with how they've done it. So it's been a pretty interesting journey, I guess is the best thing to say, and how it's evolved over the last. Well, we started connecting in early 2019, and all of 18 was construction, and so here we are, almost 6 years later, and just how it's evolved, and we're still evolving on that service and support. You know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, something we talk a lot about and something I hear a lot just from consumers is, those that are subscribed to sort of a local option for broadband, be it a co-op or a municipal provider of any kind, really. It seems like there's this local connection, and it's something you're sort of speaking to there, right? Which is that you kind of lean on this expertise and this sort of learned, yeah, I mean, expertise really, this sort of understanding of what the local community needs that maybe a larger provider that's not as familiar with the area doesn't have, right? I think
Yeah.
one of those components that I've sort of read about from you is sort of multi-tiered and super involved support system, right? Which is like not only getting people online and helping your members get connected in the first place, but also sort of impacted their satisfaction and how they use the service and the support they have while doing that. Can you kind of talk through that multi-tiered support system and what that looks like from the customer perspective and how you've seen that sort of affect them?
Yeah, so to kind of go back also is that we're based in Norman, Oklahoma, which is about 20 minutes south of Oklahoma City. One of the major cities in the country, and that's also where the University of Oklahoma is. One of the larger universities, flagship. We play pretty good football sometimes. But what was staggering to me is that I moved to Norman in 1984. So I never really, and we lived in core Norman, in the suburbs, right? And then whenever I moved out to the country, it wasn't the glam country like some people are doing now. I mean, I literally, my wife and I moved out to the country, and we were getting broadband service from a local company, and I never really got to understand and experience, this sounds crazy, but what Netflix was like, or having cameras and things like that. And we're talking early 2000s, mid 2000s, early teens and stuff like that. So it wasn't until I got here that I understood that just 2 miles east of where the University of Oklahoma was, people were on satellite. They had 10-2. They had old plant that had been there from the old Southwestern Bell days. AT&T is in our backyard. Or I mean, we're talking very archaic. And so it was just staggering to me because I used to work at the University of Oklahoma there, and I always just thought, well, it was just a given. Everybody's got it, But at home, it's like, well, okay, I don't have it here, but I live in the country. I get what I get. This is what you get, but to be able to go out and see the stars at night and all this other type of stuff. So really what it did is it opened up our eyes, and my eyes especially, to the fact that people just, like we said, just did not have access to I hate to say good quality, but it's just a good broadband connection that was reliable. And so when we started, we went out east where they had nothing, and we could make a lot of mistakes and we could figure things out as we go. But it wasn't until the competitors started to understand what we were doing. And we kept it very simple. We have 100 meg symmetrical, no data caps for $55 a month, and a gig symmetrical, no data caps for $85 a month. So we threw it out there, and people just started signing up left and right. And they were just so happy. So that if we were delivering a gig, but we were having some problems with the network, and we were just trying to figure it out in the beginning, because when you start with nothing and you build it into this, this massive machine, it really let us understand that. And where I'm going with it is that once the competitors started to figure out what they were doing, they started competing with, different offering prices, to multi-gig, to all the gimmicks and everything you could possibly ever think of. And I remember saying it to the team about 2.5, 3 years ago or so now, and I said, we just invested millions of dollars to tell somebody in the country that had nothing, we're going to give you 100 or a gig, but that's not good enough. Now you're going to need 2 gigs or you're going to need 5 gigs because they just got on Netflix. They just got those cameras. They got everything that I didn't have. And so I just remember saying, we're just going to double down on service and support. I said, that is what's going to make us different no matter what. I said we could race to the bottom with pricing. We could go back and rip and replace and try to offer 5 gigs to every home, but my iPhone only does so much. My
Right.
my MacBook Air only does so much. There's only so much that you can process through it. And so really it's whenever I challenge the team as a whole to really figure out and, like I said, double down on that service and support. And so that's whenever Kayla, who you've spoken to, she was over my marketing team, and the support team was over the network team. Well, you can kind of tell what kind of support you're going to get from a network team, right? It's going to be the network people are usually smarter than everybody. I'll just agree with them on that. But I moved the support under Kayla on the marketing side, and she was terrified. But she's done such a phenomenal job with it, because I said, if you're going to market it a certain way, you have to know how to support it. And to be able to support it, you have to know how to market it. And so that's whenever everything started to change. The first year was a challenge, just trying to understand it and understanding how they interact together. And she didn't know anything about technical support, which I thought was great, because then we could teach her and everybody could help teach her. But that's really whenever we really just we treat it like on the electric side, is that if there's an outage, we just go out. We don't call and say, well, if it's our problem, we won't charge you, but if it's inside the house, we're going to charge you $99. We got past all that junk. I said, just roll a truck. And everybody was always telling me, they said, you got to be worried about how much you're spending on rolling trucks. And I'm like, yeah, but my lifetime customer value, and these people are out there 20, 30, 40 miles outside of Norman, and the connection that they've grown accustomed to is important to them. And so so the service and support was not just, marketing team marketed and the support team supported it, but it was also the networking side of the redundancy. It was the technicians that we doubled down on adding more technicians. We've got on-call technicians. We've got people that can go out on the weekends. So if you have a problem on a Saturday afternoon, we're showing up on a Saturday afternoon, because what I've always had heard was from the competitors and people calling saying, I need your service. They said, well, XYZ company won't be out here for 10 to 14 days. And I said, well, daggum, I can get you installed faster. And so we really played against the old ways, the old guard of the traditional cable companies and all that we really turned our focus to that, like I said, that service and support, and doing all the magical things that we could do. We've got a tier 1 that answers our phone 24/7, 365 here in the United States, but then we initiated warm transfers. And the company that we work with, they said, you're doing what? And we said, yeah, we're doing warm transfers, because we want people to not have to tell the story 10 times. We want them, get the best quality install we can at the beginning. It's like when you buy a car and they say, well, we're going to show you where the service department is. You're like, I just bought a, now cars are, $60,000, $70,000 car. Why? I don't want to see that place, right? And I run into people all the time, friends that say, I had your service 3-4 years. I said, I had no idea. They said, I've never had to call. And I because we did everything right, from onboarding them to sharing, how-to videos, to QR codes, to, I remember in the beginning, we put all of our faces and our backgrounds on there, because a lot of us are from here in Norman. And I just said, I just wanted people to know who we are. It was important to know. Now we've backed off that. Then then you get everybody calling you. But I wanted everybody to know who we were. That network engineer came from OU. Another network, actually all 4 of them came from OU. I came from OU. Some people came from Chamber of Commerce. Construction managers are former linemen for 15 years. So whenever he goes out, there's validity when he says, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have to tear up your yard like this, but we're going to put it back right." And he knows how to treat the member, right? So it goes back to the initial. The first question was having former linemen, I've got 2 of them now that work for me, really also understood how to talk to the member, how to make them understand what we're going to do. And that's a level of service and support. It's not just, did you turn it on, turn it off? We'll get it on the 5 gigahertz and not the 2.5. We'll move things. I mean, there's service and support at every level that we really just peeled back the onion and just kept going until we could figure out, what, and we're just constantly still evolving and changing within that. So yeah, it's been a tremendous, that, like you said, that multi-tiered support system. It's made our take rates go high. It's made our overall satisfaction high. I remember started hearing about NPS scores, and at first I was like, NPS score, I was like, explain this to me, but so once we did, and we offer TV service, and you talk about a personal service, and to have an NPS score, I think the last time I looked was like an 84, and that's with TV, and we're competing against all the big boys in our backyard. That's been huge. Our Google reviews, our Facebook reviews, and what I love now is that, and to kind of land the plane a little bit, is that the impact of social media, and I've seen it since it was born, is the typical somebody moves to the area and they said, what's a good internet provider, right? And so we had to change a lot of our our SEO, because we were thinking that people were, like a marketing person was putting in the right keywords and everything else. And once we found that we put in the SEO good internet, then everything just shot to the top. I mean, I was like, good internet. That's what we are, is good internet, right? And but the whole point of that is that somebody will say that on Facebook. They'll say, who's the best provider? Recent Facebook post, there was 92 comments, and it was all about OEC fiber. And it was like, if you can get it, get it. It's the best. I've never had a problem. Or somebody said, I had a problem before I even knew it, and the technician was sitting in my house whenever I got home. He came in, replaced a box, didn't charge me anything. It's $55, no hidden fees, no gimmicks. That's why I've been struggling with this broadband label that the FCC wants to put out, because I'm like, well, we don't have to put a broadband label out because we're $55. There's no hidden fees. There's no gimmicks. There's nothing. I mean, if your stuff breaks, whether it's a dog chewed the fiber, because we take fiber all the way in the kitchen. There's no, Ethernet. There's no coax. There's nothing. So we'll replace it. If the kid spills water on the equipment in the home, we'll replace it. It's no rentals of so that service and support is just every single level that we look at, because it's so important, because I can't compete with some of those massive, I don't know if gazillion is a right term, but more money, more marketing, more of everything. And we've got 75 employees on the OEC fiber side that are competing against them. And I said, well, the one thing we can do is that somebody gets upset, they can call me, and I'll go out to their house and I'll talk to them. And I've done that, and I did that 2-3 weeks ago. Somebody was upset with something that had happened. I went out there and just showed up, and they said, I can't believe you're getting involved in this. I said, but I care. I care. Everybody has just really taken that mantra, I guess is the best thing to say. Just, we'll always have the naysayers and the complainers and everything else, and they'll always, we'll always have the churn and everything else. But being in the transient community with the university and everything else, that's normal. And but we're following electric trends on that. But we just, man, that service and support is just what you live and die by.
Yeah. As I hear you talk about this and really sort of just, articulate your perspective on it, the main thing that jumps out to me is kind of like what you were just describing at the beginning of that, where, it seems like most of the broadband market now is either in a race to sort of try to lower prices by cutting services here and there, cutting elements of the service, or just increasing things in a fashion which kind of outstrips the consumer need, right? Sort of like you were saying, like, jumping up to speeds that maybe will be relevant eventually, performance metrics that will be relevant, but maybe aren't right now what they need, right? And I think something you just have spoken to about sort of, it all comes back to being reactive and responsive to the needs of your community, right? Not sort of this national look at what might be the best for profit or what might be the best for optimization, but looking at your community that you serve, your members, and being, reactive to them. And I think that is, if there was a way to distill the advantage of going with a local provider, I would say that would be it, right? And I think, from what I can see, I think so. You've connected over 38,000 subscribers. Is that right? I mean,
we're right on the edge. Probably in the middle of September, we'll cross over 40,000.
40,000, yeah, 40,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
That's a massive adoption rate in a relatively short amount of time. So I think, again, that just goes to show, like you were saying, you're seeing these Reddit comments or these local social media posts, right, talking about, this is something we all kind of do when we search for things. We see it on our site. People will come and kind of discuss these providers and talk about what's good in their area. And so we kind of get that firsthand look. But looking forward, I guess, to sort of wrap this up, you've had these key factors that, your core strengths and that have clearly defined your growth so far. How do you look out into the future and, sort of plan to think about scaling some of these services? You mentioned, having all your photos on the promotional material and then pulling that back as you've grown and the sort of accessibility has become a big factor, and there's thousands of your members now. How do you think about the future and the services you offer as demand for these higher speeds and the reliance on the internet as a whole continues to rise?
Yeah, it's a great question because it kind of goes back to what you were just saying just a second ago, is that we've kind of gone through some of these growing pains, right? If we all can think back in the COVID era, right, is that it's really whenever it hit in that 2020 was whenever everything just started changing, right? All of a sudden, here comes the government. We got CAF2 funding, we got RDOF, we got BEAD, and they're just throwing money left and right and left and right. And I think what happened was that a lot of vendors and partners, whatever you want to call them, started to see opportunities to do other things, right, that we could add on to their bill. Let's just get right to it, right? Is that, well, here's this service, here's this, if you want this, if you want that, we can do this, we can do that. And I remember somebody said to me one time, they said, you don't want to be a dumb pipe. And I was like, I could see that, I was like, yeah. And they said, you don't want your competitors to come in and take your subscribers from you. And I was like, okay, I can kind of see what you're saying. And it took me a while to think about that, until finally one day I was talking to my CEO one day, and I said, I want to be the best dumb pipe I can possibly be, because OEC has always been the best electrical service. We don't offer solar, we don't offer natural gas, we don't offer any kind of anything like that. We just said wires in the sky and wires in the ground, and we will make sure that you have the service that you expect, and when you go home, you flip on your light and it comes on. And we talk about reliability on like SAIDI numbers and safety numbers on the electric side all the time. And so to kind of talk about that even some more, is that it's understanding who we are and saying we want to be the best dumb pipe. We do TV service and we do phone, right? Because we also offer commercial sales, and TV was something we got into, and we still like it, but it's weird. You could do a whole other therapy session with me about TV and programming and all that other type stuff. But at the end of it, the whole core of it is I'm trying to find people who want to support us to be that connection. That's all I'm concerned about. There's a lot of things I can add on, and I could add, they're like, well, charge $4.95 a month for this or $9.95 for that. Like, for example, in the beginning, somebody said, you could offer managed Wi-Fi for $4.95. And I said, well, what's that? And they said, well, so like if Tyler pays $4.95 a month and you don't, but Tyler calls in, he's going to get a different level of service. And I said, whoa. I said, OEC Electric, their members, they're all treated the same. And I don't care if you're an OEC member or not, because we've gone off system. I said, you're all going to get treated the same. So I don't pick and choose how you're going to get this service. Everybody just gets the same service. Everybody pays the same price. There's no question about it. And so once I figured out, and talking to the team and everybody else, I said, we just want to be the best dumb pipe. I don't care about doing home security, because I got a Best Buy back in our parking lot that I can go over there. And, Tyler could tell me what cameras I want and don't want, or I can just do like I did here. And I just walked up down the hall and I asked everybody, I was like, what do you got? They're like, well, I got Ring, I got Arlo, I got Google, I got this, I got that. And so I did whatever I wanted to do, because once again, it's the simplest thing we just keep saying. Is I said, I just want people to go home and not worry about their internet connection. Because I lived in the country where I went home and I was like, I don't know what we're going to be able to do tonight. Trying to raise two kids, sitting at the kitchen table crying. And then I'm talking about me and their mother crying while they were doing homework, But, they were just trying to survive. And it's just saying, you know what, we just want to be that dumb pipe. And I take a lot of pride in that now. And I've really pushed back on a lot of vendors and partners who will want to say, well, you want to do this, you want to add this on, you could add another $5.95. And one of them asked me one time, they said, you just don't like making money. I said, oh, we like making money, but I like doing it in a responsible way that is doing a better, like you said, doing a good thing for society, And the fact that whenever COVID hit, and at the peak of COVID, we were installing 1,000 to 1,200 homes a month. And I talked to
Wow.
some other people that were doing about 10 a month. And we kicked around the idea of setting up a mobile hotspot at McDonald's like everybody did. We thought about this, we thought about that. And I said, no, we're just going to keep connecting homes. And I think what we've done, and I always told the team this, is I said, we're recreating history. We're doing something that nobody will ever be able to ever do again, is change the world like they did whenever electricity was, brought to the rural communities in the 30s. I said, we're doing something that will never get taken away from us. And so do it the best way you possibly can. And when you follow, to kind of, go back to the beginning of the conversation, that groundwork that was laid with OEC so long ago, and I don't want to say they're a dumb electric company because we're not, but it's simple. We provide power, give great service, we're empathetic, we listen, we care, we're in the community, we're accessible, we're affordable, we're reliable, all that stuff. And I just flipped it over and just put an OEC fiber logo on it and said, let's do the same thing. And now I'm happy to be the dumbest pipe in the country, because, and I've had vendors say to me, well, if you don't do this, so-and-so hardware vendor is going to steal is a hardware company going to steal my customer, whenever I'm the one digging 12 inches in the ground and going through their attic and putting it in they're like, well, the data. I'm like, but I don't do anything with the data. We're so opposite of the data mining and all that creepy stuff that we all grown up with and everything else. I'm the opposite of that. I said, all we focus on is we wake up every day thinking about this, and how do we continue to, build more redundancy, build more support, build more service, keep it affordable and accessible. We haven't changed our prices since we started. We didn't take the greed bait like others and raise it $10 or $20 or, whatever. We still are, still spending money to ensure that service and support is there 24/7, 365. And when you're focused on being that dumb pipe and taking great pride in it and saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I could try to squeeze another $5 out of you, but that's not going to get me anywhere. It's just going to cause more headaches. And if we just stay focused on what we do, and we do it really daggum well, and we're going to cross over 40 here pretty quick, and that's pretty amazing. I think, from, like I said, sitting at this desk in September 2017 saying, what are we going to call this company? And then coming up with a logo that my marketing team really wants to change. But I told them, give me 10 years. But but the long term picture and thinking, to kind of land the plane on that is how do we continue to deliver that service and support, keep it at 55 and 85. Will we ever eventually have to change our speeds? Maybe, maybe not. It just depends. But as Apple releases VR glasses that are $3,500, somebody's going to get them, and somebody's going to want something, and somebody's going to want something that we don't have. But we are putting in those plans of how do we, we've been challenged that we can go to 10 gigs now, but we can also jump 10 gigs and just go to 50. And so I said, well, then let's just plan it out. How are we going to plan this out over the next few years to make this jump from 1, which is perfectly fine for everybody. I used to be on 1 at my house, and I told them, drop me down to 100, but don't tell me when you do it. And they did. And a month later, I said, when did you do it? They said that day. And I said, I didn't even notice a difference. And I've got like 82 devices on my house or something like that. I can't remember. I lost track. But we're just planning on making that jump from 1 to 50, future-proof it, build it, because we're not going to be here forever. And I'm just building the company for the next person to take this chair, and Kayla's and everybody else is on the team, and everybody that's around me, that we're just going to continue to deliver that best service and support, plan it for the future, so that if Tyler says, I think I want to go run OEC Fiber, you just walk in and they're like, man, they did a good job. They got us to where we can offer 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 gigs if we need to. When you stay focused on what you are and who you are, and you just know how you're doing it, and you just do it the best way you possibly can, for me, it just makes the rest of it super easy, super easy. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that mentality, the work of providers like yourself offering this next level service at the local level is something that is near and dear to my heart as someone who talks about broadband every day and lives this experience, but also just, I mean, I think this is the work of closing the digital divide, right? Is understanding the needs of people where they are and meeting them there. So,
Yeah.
David, thank you so much for talking this through. We're honored on our side to sort of recognize OEC Fiber's contribution to this space, but just thank you so much for chatting today. This was a great conversation.
Well, I appreciate it too. And the one thing I'll say is I appreciate what you guys are doing, guys and gals, excuse me, are doing, because it's just phenomenal. And I'm not gonna lie, take a little bit of pride whenever I see the rankings come out, and I look at the other companies, and I'm like, man, we were in the top 5, and we took out some big boys. We took out some. We were the little kid on the playground that took on the bullies, and we kind of won. So I appreciate what you all are doing to really get the message out there and get to more of that communication, because it hit us all in the face so fast. And what you guys are doing is great, and I just appreciate the opportunity to tell the story again. I just love it. I love telling the story about what this team has done. Special.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again, David, and hope we speak soon.
You got it. Talk to you soon.